on what they thought they should. They went, this is the way God wants us to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they really practiced what they preached.
Yes.
And that makes a big difference when you're working with people.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell people till the cows come home. If you do not love them and care for them, they're not going to listen to you.
No,
and you can't force them. And that's what happened. A lot of people were forced. And then we have these people here. It wasn't their generation, it was the generation before them that were put on reserve lands, that were forced to, to the Catholic religion or whatever it was, whatever that negativeness was, it affected them because of their parents.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Does that help?
Oh, absolutely. Do you see any different because 32 years ago, as a First Nation person, Cree, there's any change happen in here? Maybe if you're maybe 20 years old, maybe a Cree, one of the First Nation, who living with us right now, 2016. Is there any changes? And I mean,
there's still stereotypes.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if you live. The problem is, we live so close to the reserve that there's a lot of stereotype because of the stuff that happens there, and it's the gangs, all of that stuff, the drinking and everything. It still influences Wetaskiwin. We're close enough that it influences us, so that because I've gone to Camrose and I don't see the same stereotype that I see here. I see a lot of negativeness still with Native people here because we're so close to it. When you separate yourself and the further away you go, whether it's in a bigger city or whether it's in a community further away, I find you don't get the stereotype as much. But in Wetaskiwin, because we're so close, there's always, things going on at, in that area, that southern area, by McDonald's that area.
Yeah.
There's always stuff going on there. And the reason why I say that is I had an experience myself. My daughter and I had a dog. I have a dog at home. He's paralyzed. We don't know how he was paralyzed. I was with him. We were playing ball. I was throwing the ball. And about the third time, I said, okay, I'm going to throw one more time. I had my plants to water in my greenhouse, so I said, I'm going to throw one more time. And my dog's all happy. So I threw the ball, and I went into the greenhouse, and I heard him yelping, and I came out, and he was dragging his back legs. I live in the country, and there's nothing around. There's no way anybody could have hurt him. He never got hit, nothing, whatever. So I called my husband, we grabbed him, we put him in the van, and we hauled him to the vet, and the vet said, well, we think he might have had a stroke. Sometimes that happens with dogs, he said. But if he's not walking, within 10 days, he'll probably be paralyzed, most likely for the rest of his life. So that was fine. We took him home, babied him, whatever. I'd say about 2 weeks later, I noticed he wasn't eating properly, drinking properly, so I thought, I'll take him back to the vet, have him look at. But my vet wasn't there. It was another young lady. And I took my dog in. My daughter came with me, and she looked at us. She didn't look at us like normally, hi, how are you, to have that, you can tell by a person's body language how they respond to you.
Absolutely.
And I knew right away that she was looking at us in a really judgmental kind of way. She was like, yes, can I help you? And I said, well, I'm bringing my dog and I want you to have a look at him. And I said, I'm not sure, I think he's having problems with his urinary, maybe he has an infection. Can you just check him out? Okay. And she said, can you leave for a minute? And in the meantime, my dog had a sore on his hip because he couldn't walk. He was dragging his bottom along the deck or wherever he went, and I tried and keep him contained, but he would still do it. And so he had a big sore that developed here. I think it would happen from anybody. It's like almost like a rug burn. Anyway, I'll make my story quick.
No, that's okay.
Yep.
And
anyway,
I just want to see the check because your time is very important. So I don't want to take too much of your time. That's why.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she looked at this sore and she said, where did this come from? And I said, it's from him dragging his backside. I said, he has a habit of doing that. He gets excited and he wants to come, so he drags himself to come see me. She says, oh, okay. She says, why are you keeping this dog alive? And I said, pardon me? She says, why are you keeping him alive? And I said, because as far as I understand, our vet said that he's not in pain. He's healthy otherwise. I said, it's just not using his back legs. And she said, why are you keeping him? And I said, because he's my dog.
Yeah, my dog.
You know, and I want to keep him. I said, I'm going to get him a wheelchair. She said, well, you need to get him, if you're going to get him a wheelchair, you need to get him one, and you need to send a picture to me to make sure that he has one. I said, well, I didn't bring him here for you to assess him. I brought you here to check his urinary. And she said, I'm giving you a week to get a wheelchair for him and to send me a picture of him with his wheelchair. I said, well, I'm sorry. I said, but you're not his vet.
No.
I said, I'll bring him back to his vet when I get it. I shouldn't have been annoyed, but I was. And I said, I will bring him to his vet. Do you have any other questions? She said, I need that picture. And that was it. And I believe, personally, just the way that she reacted, I felt like she was judging us based on the fact that we were Native. Because she did. What happened was, I was at work here. My husband called me and said, guess what? I said, what? He said, animal control was here today. I said, okay, what happened? He says, apparently, we know who it was. It was a vet. This young vet had called and asked him to come and said that the dog was being abused. So the gentleman came. He saw we had a big area for the dog. We bought this big foamy for him, made a bed for him, so that when he was on the deck, he had a safe place to be. And the vet, or the animal control, saw everything that he had. He had his wheelchair. By that time we had his wheelchair, and it was all set up. And we had his ramp. We made him a ramp so he can go up and down in his wheelchair. And he was really annoyed. He says, why did this lady send me here? He says, I don't see this animal being abused at all. In fact, he's taken care of better than most dogs. You know, I don't treat my dog like he's my son or my daughter, because he's not. He's my dog. But I still love him. God gave him to me, and I take care of him. I know what you're saying. You know, because I have a two puppy. Yeah, some people treat them like they're little kids, and they're not. They're not. They're dogs. But still, God gave us.
It's a part of our family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he said, no. He said the dog looks fine. He was really upset, and my husband's white. And he says, he said, I'm not going to say anything negative. He says, but I have a feeling it might be because when she saw my daughter, we adopted her. When we saw my daughter and my wife, she was probably assuming that we were, whatever, we weren't caring for the dog properly. So anyway, that was fine. But it really gave me not a very good feeling. No. You know, because.
When was it?
That was here.
I mean, when was it?
When was it? Last year.
Oh my goodness,
recent. Yeah, last year. My dog, he walks, he can get up and walk now. He doesn't need his wheelchair, and he kind of walks like he's drunk. But he can walk. He can run really good, but he can't walk very good. He's still a little bit, I took him for therapy in Edmonton, and the vet there said probably take about 3 years for him to kind of get almost back to normal.
Okay. How old is he now?
He is 7.
7.
Yeah, okay. He's a black lab.
Yeah.
But anyway, that gave me a really negative.
I know what you're saying.
Feeling.
Yeah,
it was like,
still there.
Yeah, and my brother was another one. My brother looks very native, and he's a big guy. I don't know if you might have seen him. He used to sell fish at the fish markets.
Okay.
And he went to the Toronto Dominion Bank. Someone had given him a check for buying fish from him at the market here, and they bought a large amount of fish, and so the check was for $400. And he went in there to cash, because usually he doesn't take checks, and he went into there to cash because he didn't want. He went to the TD, and he went to cash it, and the lady said, "Where did you get this check from?" And he said, "From one of my customers." And she said, "I have to go talk to the manager because I can't cash this for you." And so they went and they brought the manager, and the manager was, my brother said he was so, what's the word I'm looking for? He was just very rude, and he said you could tell that he was very prejudiced. And he said, I need to know where you got this check from. He says, well, I got it from one of my customers. And he says, what customers? What do you do? He says, well, I go to markets and I sell fish, not for this much money. And he would continue to argue with my brother and finally my brother got a little upset, and he says, look, I don't usually accept checks from my customers because I do work at the farmer's market, and if you're not going to cash it, it is a TD check. And he said, I will take it elsewhere. And he said, I'm going to call the gentleman who wrote this check because I need to confirm he gave it to you.
Oh
So he
my
called him,
goodness.
and the gentleman was really upset. And he says, "How dare you treat him that way?" He says, "Yes, I gave him that check, and yes, you need to cash it for him." He said he said that's very embarrassing that you would call me for someone that I purchased something, but and I really, and he believes, and it was just the attitude. You get that attitude.
Yeah.
And he said, and so there is that in Wetaskiwin.
Mm-hmm.
And I have sometimes, like my granddaughter, she lives in Wetaskiwin. She still carries the last name Cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
And any of my family, we're not from here, but because we, like again, live so close to the reserve, we get associated with as Native people in the area. And what I tell my kids, my grandkids, my kids went to school here, is it doesn't matter what people treat you like. I said, they might look at you and stereotype you. I said, what the kind of stereotype you want, I said, is I want them to see the best of you. I said, because you know what, until they see a lot of good, they're going to continue to stereotype. You know? So in other words, if you're going to be doing sport, do the best you can so that your name is a good name. You know what I mean? I said, there are a lot of good people in the area. There are a lot of good people that live in Musqueam and Hobima.
Oh, absolutely.
I said, but unfortunately, it's the bad ones that people see. And we're going to get pushed alongside with them regardless of where you come from. I said, so make sure you have a good impression with everything you do. You know? But yeah.
Thank you for sharing. You know what your story very very strong. I mean, very powerful.
Yes.
Then I can understand the city still need to work on. Still remember when I was in Saskatchewan. I was the only person in maybe Korea, maybe in their city, I think, maybe. But we have a Filipino who is a secretary and worked for me at Sabeshanami. And then I asked her, do you find any home church? Would you like to check to maybe my church? And then she said, can I come? Oh, absolutely. Why not? And then she said, your church is a Caucasian, senior white, church. So Filipino, do you think I can go your church? Why not? I'm Korean. So I asked her why, and she said when she went to one of the church, and then everybody who inside in the church, they'll turn around and look at her, and then look at her husband, like why you're here? You're Filipino, different color and a different appearance. Why you're here? They didn't say that.
But their body
language they can understand, interpret it, translate it. And it made me really sad. I said, come, and then they came to our church, and then people, white people, they welcome them, and then treat them like a son and daughter.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what, even here, with the people that are here, this is our mission field, and that people you work with,
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes people kind of cringe. Our church is not like that, and I'm thankful for that. But some churches, I've been to them, where someone will come in, they're not dressed as nice, and they smell a little, and whatever. But you know what? God can change that.
Oh, absolutely.
But we've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. I know.
That's terrible, though.
Terrible story. There are few things that I want to talk about. Wrap it up. Maybe if you are, let's just say, what is the definition of a good life? You think?
A definition of a good life for me? I think about it all the time because I always talk about. I have a lot of kids.
Yes.
I have 4 children.
Yes.
My husband has 3. We have a blended family. We've had blended family for 23 years.
Wow.
And then we have 2 we adopted. So we have 9, 10. We have 11 kids. Probably adopt more. We have 13 grandkids. My oldest one is going to be getting her license, hopefully real soon. So when I talk to them about a good life. A good life for me is you get this as you get older. It's not something you learn when you're young. When you're young, it's like you base your life, I think, on what people have and what you should have. Do you know what I mean? That's how people live, and they'll never admit it. But that's there's a reason why God said, "Thou shalt not envy." Or be jealous of whatever your neighbor has. We to be content with what we have, and I mean I'm learning that as well as I go along. But a good life for me is my family. I spend a lot of time with my family. All my kids are grown, graduated, married. My oldest son's almost 40, and for me in my life, if I didn't have Christ, I would have no life, because
No.
because I live